look, if you were a bum in the streets, you'd love Obama. If you were an illegal alien, you'd love Obama. If you were let us say, a ne'er-do-well, a nobody, who sits around all day in a cafe and hates everybody in the world because Hollywood is run by the Jews, so-called, and they didn't publish your script. Publishers are run by Jews, that's why they didn't publish your book. In other words, the disgruntled haters that sit in cafes in San Francisco's North Beach, if you were one of them, you'd love Obama too, because you'd think he's one of you, but he isn't even one of you. He's using you, but you don't even understand that. So that's my position. I'm very clear on what I see. I believe I have the evidence to support my arguments. And when I come back, I'll take your arguments on these and other topics right here on the Savage Nation.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage.
The Savage Nation is sponsored by SwissAmerica.com, the only company I trust to protect my wealth and financial future. Call 1-800-289-2646. My old friends used to dance to this music when they all became dead, I think. So there he is, the clown, amongst the other clowns, talking about a climate crisis when ISIS is the real crisis. And the fact of the matter is, this is insanity, total insanity. It's a meaningless meeting by meaningless men and women. Problem is, they're very powerful, meaningless men and women. They're corrupt from the top of their head to the bottom of their toes. How do I prove that? George Soros, who I think is the most dangerous evil man on the planet, and Tom Steyer, another crooked weasel in my estimation, are investors in Obama's energy plan. You didn't know that? Didn't make it to your local newspaper? George Soros and Tom Steyer are investors in Obama's new clean energy research plan. It's called the Breakthrough Energy Coalition and is a collection of scoundrels including Soros, Steyer, and cellulosic ethanol scammer Vinod Khosla. The only one missing so far is Elon Musk, they write. You don't know anything about this and what this means? Well, you'll have to read the story. You can find it on the top of the Drudge Report. It's linked from Climate Depot. Soros has purchased an initial 1 million shares of Peabody Energy. Did you know what that is? That's a coal company. He's a new coal baron. After Soros drove down the price of coal by attacking it every which way to Sunday, he went in and he bought coal companies. He bought 1 million shares of Peabody Energy. Then he bought 553,000 shares of Arch Coal, the two largest publicly traded U.S. coal companies. These companies have been driven perilously close to bankruptcy by the combination of President Liar's war on coal and inexpensive natural gas brought on by the hydrofracturing revolution. You hear? So what happened? Who's now running the coal industry? George Soros, the new king of coal. And you thought he really cared about the environment? You think he cares about open societies? George Soros, Barry, the mainstream media, the unions, the Democrat voters, and Moonbeam Brown, all are parts of the centipede of lies. Soros is a nation killer. He made his billions betting against economies. He destroyed countless lives for his own greedy, personal gain and that of his family. He has endorsed the phonies scam, which is more proof that this has nothing to do with science. This global warming scam is a fairy tale designed only to enrich the billionaires on the back of the common man. And running it all, George Soros, the most dangerous man in the world, in my opinion.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage.
So I believe, in the words of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., that there is such a thing as being too late. And when it comes to climate change, that hour is almost upon us.
Oh, God, the world's coming to an end.
But if we act here, if we act now.
Shut up. Please, please spare America this windbag. There's no question that intelligent people who have actually investigated this whole issue have come to the conclusion that it's a lie, number one, and number two, only a very small handful of extremely wealthy people are benefiting and will continue to benefit from any of the policies that these clowns might pass to so-called to control the so-called climate change. Now, I can give you evidence if you'd like, and I will, as this hour goes on. I will give you some inconvenient research, which is the Vostok ice core samples in a minute, to support my position, the one I just stated. But first, let's go to a caller who says global warming is real. Phil, tell us why it's real.
Yes, sir. I'm calling about the opening statement about Obama being in Europe trying to clean up the mess that your capitalist friends have created. Now, 98% of scientists in the world have agreed that global warming is a fact. We have.
Sir, wait a minute. What, you're quoting Obama again. First of all, even Obama says it's 97%. But that has no meaning because all of these scientists are on the government take. Are you aware of that?
I'm not quoting Obama. I'm getting this research from NASA.gov.
Oh, you're getting it from NASA, another reliable organization. Keep going with your false data. Keep going. I'll annihilate every one of the facts that you're stating because they're not facts. They're lies, my friend. You're reading the propaganda and you're taking it as truth.
Well, it's saying that the sea levels have risen. Global temperature.
Who's saying? Who's saying? Which sea levels have risen?
Global sea.
Excuse me. Which sea level has risen?
All sea levels, 6.7 inches in the last century.
Really? Do you live near the water? I live next to the San Francisco Bay. Not 1 millimeter has this bay gone up.
Well, I'm not sure. I'm sure you're not going to see 6 inches rising all of it.
Of course I would see 6 inches. It's a complete fraud. You know, Phil, if I gave you evidence, would you be willing to admit maybe I'm right and you're wrong? No. So what's the point of it?
The point is that it's being caused by these corporations polluting the environment.
Oh, yeah, corporations, right. Where do you get your bread and water from? Who supplies you with your wheat and your water? Isn't it corporations, Phil?
Well, it's the farmers.
The farmers, really? And they're not corporate farmers? Even if they're a small farmer, it's not a family corporation? They're evil also?
I didn't say they were evil. I'm saying
you said the corporations are capitalist, they're polluting the world, didn't you? And if it was a socialist world, the world would be perfect. Is that your allegation?
Well, all of the industry has been exported over to China, and it's so polluted over there that people can't even go out into the streets.
Well, now you're shifting the argument from America to China. I don't know which one you hate more. What would you like China to go back to, the rickshaw and raising rice by hand?
No, but I'm saying that we don't need...
Phil, where do you get your food from? Tell me, do you buy it in a supermarket or a grocery store?
Why do you think Obama doesn't want to build the pipeline?
Phil, where do you get your food from? Do you buy it in a supermarket or a grocery store? Or do you grow your own food?
What does food got to do with global warming?
Where do you get your food from? Do you buy it in a supermarket, grocery store, or do you grow your own food?
No, I get it from the grocery store.
You do. So the grocery store is part of a corporation, isn't it?
Yes.
And the farmers may or may not be agribusinesses, but they're also part of corporations, aren't they? So the very food you eat is raised by corporations. How could you be so naive to say that corporations are evil? They're run by capitalists who pollute the earth. You're not even thinking this through, Phil.
No, you're switching it to food. I'm saying it's from...
Well, you just said corporations. Who is it who raises your food for you but corporations?
Right, but I didn't say food corporations are causing global...
Well, of course you didn't, because you didn't think through your own statement. So which corporations exactly are the evil ones, Phil?
Well, to start with, the auto manufacturers, they're producing...
Wait. Sorry, which manufacturers are the evil ones?
Gas up by take gas from all, squander gas. That's why Obama doesn't want...
Phil, stop it. Will you stop for a minute? You're not making any sense, Phil. I know that you think you are. It's because you're probably a shut-in and no one ever listens to you. I'm trying to be nice to you. Which industry would you say is the most evil of all?
The most evil of all would be the oil corporations.
Now, why are they evil?
Exxon.
Phil, why are oil corporations evil?
Because they're drilling for oil and pumping this oil, turning it into gasoline, and selling it to the people at a rate...
And Phil, now, do you drive a car, Phil?
What?
Do you drive a car, Phil?
Yeah, I drive a cheap car. It's cars
Okay, that means that means nothing. But you're a poor man who drives a cheap car, so you hate everybody. That's the main problem.
Oh, I didn't
You
say
probably
that.
resent the man who has a nicer car, nicer shoes, and a nicer wife. But now you're saying that cars are evil because they use gasoline? What would you suggest, using banana peels?
No, we need to go to electric power.
Oh, you do?
Out there.
Well, let's see how smart that is. Where does the electric car get its energy from?
From electricity.
Yes, generated by what in the car?
I'm sorry?
Come on, Phil, stop asking me questions, because it's a trick that people like you use to trip up intelligent people. Where does the electricity come from in the car?
The electricity comes from an electric motor.
Very good. And what generates the electricity for that electric motor?
The electric companies.
No, excuse me. Didn't you want to say there's a battery in there that drives the electric motor?
Well, yeah, that's part of it.
All right, good. We're getting somewhere. Now, where does the battery get its energy from?
From the nickel carbide or cadmium batteries.
We just said that the energy comes from the battery. Where does the battery get its energy from?
From electricity. It's powered.
Thank you. So, in other words, the car owner plugs it into an electrical stand. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay, good. Well, so far, so good. Now, where does that electricity come from to power the battery that powers the electric motor in these so-called green cars? It comes from what?
Coal and oil.
All right, Phil. Now you understand that it takes energy to make energy? The question is, what you don't want to ask yourself is the net energy that a car uses to drive, to get the energy to drive, does it pollute less or more when you add up the amount of energy it's getting from plugging in? The answer is it actually uses more energy and causes more pollution than an internal combustion engine being driven by fossil fuels.
Well,
I think I've given you as much as you can take for one lifetime, Phil. So I'll let you go. You were a good caller. At least you're willing to try to answer, and you did. I'm not going to run you off the rails. It's been studied, and it takes more energy and produces more pollution to drive an electric car than does a car using gasoline. Now, you don't need a PhD to follow what I'm about to say. Inconvenient research, the Vostok ice core samples. Now, that sounds very complicated. Most people, they're going to go blank on me right now. And I'm going to read something to you. It's very important. Maybe you'll learn something. Maybe you've never heard of the Vostok ice core samples. Well, look it up. VOSTOK. It's very important research. What it is this. It was obtained by drilling down into the ice above Lake Vostok into Antarctica to a depth of 10,000 feet. That's about, how long is that? How far is 10,000 feet? About 2 miles down, right? And they were French and Russian scientists who dug up deep core ice samples, which allowed them to look at, among other things, the history of temperature and carbon dioxide over the past 420,000 years. And guess what? The samples did show that increases in carbon dioxide always accompanied increases in temperature. But guess what? The increases in temperature always came first. What does this mean? It means the increases in carbon dioxide consistently lagged behind temperature increases by about 800 years. I know you're not following me. What does this mean? This proves that increased levels of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere did not cause warming. How could it have? If it didn't happen until after the warming. This knocks over the entire house of cards being put out by Obama. Wait, there's more. That's not all that the Vostok ice core samples tells us. As Joe Martino reports, 325,000 years ago, listen to that, long before Phil was born, long before Pittsburgh existed, long before Marconi invented the radio, 325,000 years ago, long before Black Lives Matter appeared on the earth, long before Al Sharpton's ancestor gave us the origin of the human species, 325,000 years ago, global temperatures and carbon dioxide levels were higher than they are today. I guess Barry from Honolulu didn't learn any of this when he was at Columbia, learning how to